Hey trenders, welcome back to another episode of Trending Up. We are very excited that you have tuned in again. We are going through the Enneagram series again. If you have no idea what that is if this is your first time listening to the podcast, we invite you to go back a couple episodes to the titled episode Enneagram ? And you will hear more about what the Enneagram is. And so we've been going through every type. There are 9 types of the Enneagram. There are personality types that everyone has at some point. Some numbers are higher than others in most people. And today we're going over the number 7. So we're very excited because number 7 is none other than my wife,
The perfect
Chantal's.
person. The
The
perfect
perfect person.
person. Yeah,
The
right? So
perfect
your
person.
wife, the perfect person.
Not just that, but that number 7 is my second highest number as well. So very excited because 7, 8,
Ah.
9, the next couple of numbers are pretty much Chantal and I. Chantal is 7, 8, and I am 9, 7. So very excited to talk a little bit more about ourselves. Wow, that kind of sounds bad, but whatever. But yeah, the 7 is, in a nutshell, going back to those scenarios we've talked about in the beginning, the 7 is if we are at the beach, the 7 will say, let me bury you in the sand, and when strangers walk by, you can yell weird things at them. It'll be fun, right? Or when in celebrations, when they're celebrating things that they've done throughout the day or throughout their day, it says, I finished my taxes. We should celebrate. 5 minutes later, I got all of my work done for the day. We should celebrate. A little bit later, I finished the book I was reading. We should celebrate. So there's always about excitement, adventure, just full of adventure. It's pretty funny. It's a great number. And some words that go with the enthusiast. Number 7 is they're spontaneous, they're versatile, playful, optimistic, but they can be impulsive, they can be distracted, and they can be scattered at times. But 7s are great. Now, 7s, though, as we move forward, 7s can have a fear about their inner world. And sometimes because of this, not compared to maybe a 4 and 6, they're not as in tune with their feelings, or they're afraid of what they may feel. And they're afraid of feeling fear. And so as long as they have something stimulating to anticipate, 7s feel that they can distract themselves from their fears, right? So that's why a 7 is that person that's always looking for the next adventure, the next thing. And sometimes they're not really living in the moment, or they won't even process through hard emotions or things, because it's like, no, I can't get down. Because they feel that like every time you get down or sad, then you're just not living with purpose or movement forward, right? So 7s always are trying to do the next thing and trying to sometimes not be in tune with their feelings, because they think it can be just a distraction to what they're trying to do in life. So pretty interesting. Edgar, any thoughts on 7s? I don't know if you've had any connection to 7s at all.
I was just reflecting on the characteristics of a 7, and
Right.
this reminds me of like comedians. Comedians are people who can stand up and make a room laugh, right? Get everybody laughing. And but then you hear like these stories of a lot of comedians suffering with depression. Sometimes could a 7 be someone that uses, like, is an extrovert, is out there, enjoying life, but then they have these moments where they just feel like really like empty at the same time, so they look for more adventure. It reminds me of that gentleman who committed suicide about 2 years ago. He had his I forgot his name. Maybe you remember.
A comedian?
No, he wasn't a comedian. He had a show on Netflix that he would just travel the world and eat food.
Yeah. Anthony Bordeaux,
Bordeaux or something like that.
Yeah.
And he had, like, you can imagine the experiences of adventure, going to the middle of Peru and eating like some tacos that they're making, way back when, for the Incas, and then they go see, and then they're still empty. So you find 7s that they always are looking for adventure, but like we've mentioned throughout every episode, every personality has a healthy and unhealthy side to them. So a 7 could be looking for adventure and excitement, but maybe ignoring some of their maybe emotional or deep needs that they're trying to cover up with life, with life adventures.
Right. Oh, that's very interesting. And Yeah, so sevens are extroverted, they're optimistic, they're versatile, they're spontaneous, they're playful, high-spirited, they're practical. They constantly seek new and exciting experiences, but they can become distracted and exhausted by staying on the go, right? Because they're always like
Yeah.
going from thing to thing to thing to thing. And, this is Chantal. I don't want to put her on blast or anything, but Chantal is just a busy woman, but she loves it. She
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
she
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
does she works at a gym where she does personal training and she works
That's
out as
awesome.
well. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, then she goes and does a full day of work as a physical therapist in a clinic. So she'll wake up at 6, and like sevens compared to nines, we'll get to nine. Nines are known to be slothful. Some nines. I don't think I'm super slothful, but I don't mind sleeping in. I don't mind sleeping. And like we're
That's
just
what a nine would say.
right. That's but Chantal would be like up at like 6, 5:30, just boom, let's go. Let's get the day. She's excited. She's ready to go. It's like every day is a new adventure. You can, it's kind of like the Disney princesses that open the windows and they're singing and the
Yeah.
birds are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and nines are like, covering themselves, like, just can you turn off the light, please? I'm still trying to sleep. And the sevens
Yeah.
are like,
Yeah.
it's a new day. Let's go get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
constantly seeking new experiences. They typically have problems with impatience and impulsiveness, though. But at their best, they focus their talents on worthwhile goals, becoming appreciative, joyous, and satisfied. So it's very interesting. Sevens, I think, are kind of like the motor of the numbers here. One of the motors in terms of, I think eights too can be a strong motor, and to move people forward, right? They come in, they're the life of the party, and they just have so much, like a spark and a funk to them that's just can be attractive to some people, but for other numbers, it can be like, you're just too much. That's overwhelming
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. Please, like,
Yeah.
that's how I was with Chantal
Yeah.
when I met her first. When we met, she was we were at a summer camp and she was leading worship and she was just super hyped. She's like, every move just, and
Yeah.
I was looking in the back
Yeah.
as a nine. I had relationships with a lot of girls that were not sevens. They were just, it was, I don't know what number they would have fallen into, but they were more reserved, they were more quiet, maybe fives. I don't know. And I was like, she's just it's overwhelming. It's too much excitement, too much,
Yeah. Yeah.
too much excitement
Yeah.
there. So it's interesting. Yeah. Very seven. So, Edgar, do you want to talk to us a little bit about their fears and desires?
Yeah, yeah. So a basic fear of seven is to be I would say boring or deprived
Hmm.
and in pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sevens because of their wanting to find something exciting. The opposite is actually the pain
Right.
and boredom and just feeling like they're not doing anything.
Right.
And but so their basic desire is to be satisfied and content and
Hmm.
have their needs being fulfilled,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's where they're constantly looking for something. But the motivations for a seven can be someone who wants to maintain their freedom and happiness.
Yeah.
They don't want to miss out on worthwhile experiences,
Hmm.
and they're always wanting to keep themselves occupied and avoid pain and essentially suffering. So like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
all have
At the core, we all want to avoid pain. Right. Right.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like we must understand that the Enneagram is not the perfect model, but it
Mm-hmm.
helps us understand like our basic, you know, in expectations
Right.
and the
Right.
way that we go about the day. But there are moments that we wanting to find like adventure and so forth. But a seven
Right.
has that to a fuller extent in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there is in the Bible. I can think of like several sevens, but who do you think is a good seven, Sebastian?
I think one of the good sevens would be King Solomon. I've been reading a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about, and they've been saying seven. Solomon is a seven, just because you read, especially Ecclesiastes, and how he says like he tried everything, he did everything under the sun, everything
Yeah.
allowed or possible. He's tried it, whether that be riches and love, in work, in wisdom, and trying to gain knowledge. And then at the end of the day, he's like, I've done everything, and everything's vain, like nothing really true. And it's like, wow, that's so
Wow.
depressing, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, sevens are fun, spontaneous adventurers. They tend to do everything too much in an attempt to avoid anything hard or painful. And they're many times fixated on immediate gratification, making them especially vulnerable to addiction, because I just want the fix right now. So
Yeah,
Solomon
yeah.
became one of the wealthiest and most powerful kings in the history of Israel. He was also wise. But his undoing was his love for women. This became his downfall, where he had what, 500 plus wives, like something like that.
Yeah,
Amazing. I don't know
something
how they
like
do that. I
that.
have a great wife, but even that, like, how do you balance time? There's just so many questions.
It's amazing, not that you want 500 wives, but the fact that he was
Was
able
able to
to
have,
go about to do that, to just do that.
that's like, yeah, that's
Something
just crazy.
about Solomon, though. I would say that his seven, his wanting for adventure,
Right.
also showed it in his sexuality, right?
Uh-huh.
So like you
Okay.
find that if you're seven, you may not be wanting to be like Solomon and have 500 wives, but
Right.
it may show up in a different way.
Right.
So
Right.
we
So
really need to
that's good.
figure out, like, how does it show up in our own like lives?
Mm-hmm.
How we need to have some introspection. I feel like a lot of people look at others and critique others, but there's sometimes that we need to look at ourselves
Right.
and
Right.
say,
Right.
what's going on in here?
Right.
Um, because if not, we will be blind
Yeah.
we'll be biased, so
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point,
um,
because I think I've heard that because of that, sevens can get bored easily, and this
mm,
can lead to multiple problems, right? If you're in a relationship and you get bored of the relationship,
yeah,
right, or your job,
bored,
or
right?
right,
Yeah.
right, bored, and you want something else, and you're just, I'm done with this. It just doesn't bring me excitement. And we've talked about this
Yeah.
in other topics about what relationships entail. More about, it's more about choices and feelings, and
Yeah.
how it brings you, like, how does this make, am I excited every morning? It's like, no, not really. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, oh, we gotta go. I gotta go. Gotta go clean Sebas's, diapers, like you have to do, right? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
sometimes I
Yeah.
just don't
Yeah.
feel like it,
Yeah.
or getting
Yeah.
up and
Yeah.
cooking or washing dishes and stuff. And so, but the strengths of a seven is that you are energetic, you are lively, and you are the life of the party. Um, and um, you're an encourager, and you love to bring others into the fold. And what's awesome is that when you give your heart, you give it completely and are wholeheartedly committed to the affairs of the Lord, right? Your weakness
Yeah.
is that your love of all life has to offer can bend you towards addiction and indulgence.
Yeah.
So it's just you finding that balance, right? And
What's interesting,
yeah,
if you go back on all our episodes, a common theme is substance abuse. Like every number
right,
has some kind of substance abuse,
right,
and it's typically used to cover up other pain. So like
mm,
alcohol to mask the
right,
pain of not feeling
right,
fulfilled, so you're trying to get like de-stressed by
right,
drinking
right,
a copious amount of alcohol.
yeah.
Smoking to, again, relieve your stress. You find this continually coming up.
That's
Very,
interesting. Yeah,
very,
yeah, yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting. So it's not just for one person.
yeah.
What are some personal like recommendations that you can give to someone who's a seven, or if you know that someone who's a seven, how
Yeah.
can you see that they can, like,
Yeah, no, I know.
complement
I
this?
personally am well acquainted with the seven.
Yeah,
And it's just,
yeah,
I'm trying to think of stories that are appropriate to share and wouldn't embarrass Chantal.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's just, I think one thing, before we get to the growth recommendation, it's just that sevens are just always onto something, and you need someone sometimes that needs to kind of balance you and say, hey, I was listening to a podcast yesterday about actually a relationship between a 9 and a 7, and the wife she was a 9 and the husband's a 7. She was saying that, um, the husband who's a 7 is like a balloon, right? And he's always ready to just float and just go and to new things, new adventures, and that she's like the string, and that holds him down sometimes. And so what's really cool is that they balance each other out, because the 9 sometimes will be like, no, it's okay, we'll do whatever you want, and the 7's like, no, let's go camping, let's go get ice cream, let's go do this. So being the balloon, the 7 can pull the 9 up, right, and say, hey, let's go hang out, let's go do this, let's go do adventure. And at the same time, the 9 can kind of settle the 7 down and say, hey, relax, don't get ahead of yourself, like, be in the moment, be present, don't move on to new adventures just yet, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
pretty interesting,
yes.
I saw that
They
dynamic.
complement each other, right? They
Yeah,
complement
yeah,
each other.
yeah,
Like,
nines and sevens.
yeah, yeah. It's good to know who you're marrying, because
Oh
you should
yeah, yeah,
complement
yeah,
each other.
yeah, yeah, for
Balance
sure.
each other out. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
it. But yeah, going into growth recommendations, the first one is recognize your impulsiveness and get in the habit of observing your impulses rather than giving into them. And I think that's kind of been the whole point of the Enneagram series that we've been trying to do, is just that, we're not trying to be like, oh, this number sucks because this number has, look at, your problem is
Yeah,
that you think
yeah. They
you're
suck.
a 3 and you think you're self-conscious, and you think you want to show that you're the best. No, it's just to show, like, hey, if we can see where we could potentially go bad and where we could potentially fail, then
Yeah.
we can make the proper adjustments so that we don't mess up. Not just speaking
Yeah.
spiritually, but just in our relationship with others, right?
Absolutely.
If you're, we were talking as a 5, you're very analytical, and then you're thinking, no, this is going to fail, this relationship won't work, or you're just overthinking things, and you're not really present in the moment, then that can backfire and your relationships can suffer because you're not really present, or you're not really having that faith that this can actually blossom to something that you haven't really considered in your thinking. So it's just seeing where you can go wrong and making the proper adjustments to say, hey, I'm aware that my personality is, as a 7, impulsive, and that I can get bored in static things. I'm in a long-term relationship. I need to work hard to make sure that, one, I don't decide to and desire to leave the person I'm with, but that, two, I can
Yeah.
also make this exciting in my own way and say,
Yep.
what can we do
Yep.
to spice up our marriage or our dating, right? All right, let's go do crazy stuff, and then balancing that out, right? So I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's one
Yeah.
of the points there.
Yeah, you know something that a is 7 for those who are around 7s. First of all, never use their personality against themselves. You
Yeah.
gotta be very tactful on how you talk to anybody.
Yes. Yeah. That's
But
good.
a 7, if you're 7, you need to be able to when you need to be able to listen to others. Now, this
Yeah.
is elementary.
Right.
Everybody should listen to other people, but it's good for 7s to be able to hear other people, but also hear other people, but also understand that their wants and the needs of others. Because sometimes at the expense of others, 7s will
Yeah.
not listen to others because I 7 know better than the person next to me and so forth.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
listening to people is key for anybody,
Yeah.
but for 7s, especially if you have a moment of being a 7, because again, the Enneagram is a scale, it's not a fixed state. There, you need to be able to realize that even if you're like, oh, I'm gonna go backpack the Appalachian Trail, you
Right.
need to be also listening to the person who says, Edgar, you need to realize that's
You need a
four, I don't
train,
know,
or right. Right.
300 miles of, like
Right.
your feet
Right.
are gonna be
Right. Right.
torn up, so it's good to listen to other people, even when you're so pumped about what you're thinking is the best.
Right. Right. No, that's
Right?
good. That's good, man.
um
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What else?
What else? All right. So for 7s, you do not have to have everything this very moment, right?
uh, that's
Chantal,
hard,
come
man,
on. You
that's
don't need to
hard.
buy those stuff. I'm just kidding. She's great. But it's tempting to have a new acquisition. But the reality is that that new acquisition that you're tempted by will most likely still be available tomorrow, right? You don't have to get it
Yeah.
today. Um, most good opportunities will come back again, and you will be in a better position to discern which opportunities really are best for you. I see it. If I can show you around the house, you could see all the plants that I have. And Chantal is a 7, which I love this. I love this. I don't want to call it an addiction, but this hobby that she has of plants. I love it because it kind of helps her stop for a moment and have something
Yeah,
positive and healthy in our environment at home. But we have a lot of plants, right? And sometimes I'll
yeah,
come
yeah.
home and it's just like I had to stop by Walmart. I was like, okay, what'd you get? Milk, bread, and a couple plants. And it's like, oh, interesting. Okay,
A
so
eucalyptus plant.
a eucalyptus plant, but it's like, but no, this plant is great. It'll help, and all this and that. But she does a great job of I think it's a healthy hobby that she has. But you can see how it's like always like I need to get the next thing. I need to go get this. I need to buy this because I want. It's just it's you're living for that adrenaline rush. And what can happen is that once, and I see it too as a 9 for some reason in my person. I guess I'm a 9/7, so I get this. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
always like wrestling because I'm like, okay, I want to get the new iPhone, maybe. I want to get the iWatch too, and I gotta get these shoes, and I need to get some more stuff, for podcasting, and then for my keyboard. And
yeah,
every
yeah,
time you
yeah, yeah,
get that, you're like, okay, once I get this, I'm gonna be done for a couple months and not buy anything. But then you get that
yeah.
for a week or two, and what happens? You're like, something new comes out, and you're like, oh, I need this, and you're always,
Hmm.
and I see that for myself in terms of like, I'm always like, oh, I need to, oh yeah, I got this thing. Now I'm waiting for like, oh, this came out, I want to get that too. And it's just you're kind of never satisfied with what you've already received because you're always looking for the next thing. So it's good to just sometimes stop and say, first of all, your bank account will appreciate it. But secondly, it's like, hey, I need to enjoy what I have, like, and look at what I need, at what I actually have, and see if what I desire is actually what I need, and be
Yeah.
content with what I have. So yeah, you don't have to have everything this very moment. That really speaks to me because I feel that way sometimes too. What else?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think something that a 7 can benefit from is understanding that always choose quality over quantity.
Mm,
There sometimes in the race to always find something new, you
right.
may experience a bad a lot of
Right.
experiences, but they may not be really good experiences.
Right. Right.
And it's better to have a quality experience than a bad one.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and that's I definitely understand that, because I think of a story about last year. A couple of friends and I, we went to the Smoky Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to Gatlinburg, for those who are familiar with Gatlinburg down in
Right.
Tennessee. And while we were down there, we went to this restaurant that I thought, oh, it's gonna be a cool experience. The restaurant specializes in treating you like being jerks to you. So like
Oh, really?
all of the
Oh
waiters
my
and
goodness.
everybody,
They're just
they're
really
all
mean.
gonna mean to you. Like they'll give you a hat, and then they're gonna write something offensive on that hat. And
Oh my
I
goodness.
remember I thought to myself, this is gonna be funny. When do you ever go to a restaurant and they treat you bad? But man, the food was horrible. It was
Oh,
a
it was too?
horrible. Yeah,
Everything was bad.
it was
It was a
bad.
horrible experience. So the
It,
food is
it was
bad and the customer service is horrible on purpose.
yeah, yeah. I don't think the food was supposed to be bad on purpose, but
But it just came out wrong.
yeah. So like that drive to get like a really cool experience on
Right, right.
going to this place where they treat you really bad ended up being horrible. It's just bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It was an experience, but it wasn't good quality of an experience.
Right, right, right.
So it's always better to pick quality over quantity when it comes to
Yeah. No, I like that. I like
experiences.
that. Yeah, I see that too. And just in terms of I'm always thinking ahead to the next thing, and I'm not even done with what's happening in the present moment. I'm thinking like, how can I make this better next time? And then I catch myself saying like, kind of like Andy
Ah,
Bernard says this in The Office. He says this quote, which
oh
is very
yeah, I
memorable. He's
remember.
like,
I remember.
I wish
Yep,
there
yep.
was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. And
Yeah,
that hits me
yeah.
really hard because I'm like,
Ooh,
I remember sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I can't wait for this to happen. And I'm like, no, wait, it's happening right now. Like it's not
yeah.
thinking, you got to just take advantage of it every moment that you're experiencing, every experience that you have, and just live in that moment. Because
Oh
it's
yeah.
so hard to just
You,
say next, what's
you,
next?
you, you, I'm a three, and I
Right.
have a desire to always achieve more. So
Right.
it's interesting. The seven of wanting to get more experiences is actually parallel with my wanting to get more achievements.
Oh,
So
right. Right. That's
there are a
good.
lot of times
That's good.
where I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta get this degree, and then
Yeah.
once I get this degree, I'm gonna be happy, and I
No.
get it, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, now I want a
Right. Right.
doctorate.
That's
You
good. I
know,
like that connection. That's a good connection. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
You're
I
never
need to
satisfied.
realize, yeah, need to be excited for what I have and
Mm-hmm.
appreciate what I have before wanting something else.
Right.
So it's
Right.
about really, it's about like maybe a little bit of envy and a little bit of selfishness
Yeah. Yeah.
that drives my, I need to really check myself
Yeah.
before I
Yeah.
wreck myself.
Right.
Ooh.
Right. Right.
All
That's
right.
good. And the last point here is that's a great point. I really like that. Everyone has this, yeah. And it just always goes back to what Solomon was saying. Everything is vain, it's meaningless. And we can chase after it, achievements, experiences, love, analytics, the
Yeah. Yeah.
morality of life,
Yeah.
every number, and it's gonna be vain. All right, last point. Make sure that what you want. Okay, I'm gonna start again. Make sure that what you want will be ready for will oh my goodness. Make sure that what you want will really, really be good for you in the long run. Okay, so just measuring the thing that you want and comparing and saying, okay, is this actually going to bring satisfaction and joy?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Mary Kondo. What's up? Is it the Kondo effect? That what is it called?
Marie Kondo, the
Right? Is it?
on
Yeah, of like fixing.
yeah, on
She's
Netflix.
like, does this make me
Yeah.
feel happy? No, does this bring me joy? And the
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
does
yeah,
this bring
yeah.
me whatever? So it's just looking at those things and because we can just be overwhelmed with so many experiences that really we think are going to bring us joy and stuff, but they really don't, right? So
Uh-huh.
understanding and saying,
Yeah.
okay, watch what you pray for since your prayers may be answered. That's one of the sayings there.
Whoa.
Just be careful what you pray for because you're probably going
Whoa.
to get that. So Enneagram and Coffee says, look, negative emotions are part of being alive. So you can't run from it. You're going to have moments of sadness. Now, how you deal with that sadness will depend with the different numbers. But as a 7, remember that moments of gloom, of sadness, don't derail you from reaching your purpose or from moving forward, right? They're just part of the process. Now I know you may feel as a 7 that you're getting stuck sometimes, and you don't want to be in those feelings because you want excitement and happiness and joy. But it's important to also embrace those negative emotions because it's part of being a human. And lastly, Edgar, if you want to read
Yeah.
Craig
Pastor Craig
Rochelle's point, yeah.
Groeschel from the Life Church says, for a 7, admitting your weakness is the first step to true strength. So at times goes back to the idea that 7s in their wanting to master any weakness, they are always looking for more and more.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think we realize the fragileness of life and who we are.
Right.
So we're all no matter if you're a 1 or you're a 7 or 8 or 9, you are all at the end a created being.
Yeah.
That lives for a finite amount of time, and
right.
Those who are believers will greatly realize this benefit to their own walk with the Lord.
Right,
But
right.
even if you're not a believer, even if you struggle with knowing acknowledging the presence of God or whatever the case is, you will realize that there's a great benefit from understanding that we're all finite, and we're all it humbles us to realize that we're not like little gods walking around, but we're just people, right?
Yeah,
Living for a little bit of time. That's
it. That's awesome. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed the Enneagram Type 7. We hope you can stick with us. We just have 2 more, and then we'll go into
two more
exciting topics as well, going into our regular programming schedule. So we love you guys. We hope everything goes well with y'all. Keep trending up. We'll see you later. Peace.